morning and welcome to Moving Well. Just a reminder, this is not an exercise class, so you want to remember to move small, move gently, move slowly, just paying attention to what you're sensing and feeling. Let yourself get a little curious, interested in what you're doing, and just enjoy. So go ahead now, if you want to go ahead and lay on your mat, you'll want to take your glasses off. And the reason we take our glasses off is because our eyes are actually extensions of our brain, the same ball of matter. That our eyes are extensions, and they are powerfully connected to our brain and have a great effect on the brain. And the movements that we are doing are actually tapping into our brain and allowing our brain to begin to reorganize and make some new connections that are more comfortable, more functional, just increasing our ability to be comfortable in our bodies. So we start out by just taking a few moments to feel ourselves on the mat. Our brain loves comparisons, so we take time to pay attention to how we are as we begin. Like notice at the beginning of a class, there are usually spaces under parts of yourself. So take a few moments just for you to notice before I begin to call your attention to some areas. Feel the way your two heels are resting on the floor, your right heel, your left heel. Notice the direction that your toes are pointing on the right foot and on the left foot. And then just let your attention travel from your right heel through your ankle, your lower leg to your knee. Is there space behind your knee? From your knee up through your upper leg to your hip joint. And then bring your attention to your left heel. Again, notice the direction these toes are pointing. Are they similar to the way your right leg was organized, or are they a little different? And then bring your attention up through your lower left leg, to your left knee. Again, notice, is there space behind your left knee? How much is your left thigh in contact with the floor? Scan all the way up to your left hip joint. Get a sense of where your hip joints are. And you can do that by very gently and slowly just rotate your feet. Like turn your toes towards midline a little and then out. So you're just kind of rolling them back and forth like windshield wipers. And just notice. Does one move more easily than the other? And can you sense the movement right in your hip joint as you do this? Deep in your pelvis. And then let that go, and then bring your attention to your tailbone, your coccyx, right at the base of your sacrum, that flat bone in the middle of your pelvis. See if you can sense where your tailbone is. And then notice how you rest on your sacrum. What part? Is it more towards your waist, more towards your tailbone, more on the right, more on the left? And then at the top of your sacrum, our lumbar spine begins. Scan through your lumbar spine, or 5 vertebrae there. And then through your mid-back, where the ribs begin, on up between your shoulder blades, to the base of your neck, which is C7, the big cervical vertebra at C7. And if you want to reach back there and feel the vertebra that's at the base of your neck. You'll feel it. It's a little bigger than others, and it's one that can get stuck and cause some issues. And then just let your attention travel through the 7 cervical vertebrae of your neck all the way to the base of your head. Pay attention to how your head is resting. Notice things like, what's the leaning point right now at the beginning of the lesson? How heavy does your head feel? And notice your shoulder blades, your right shoulder blade, your left shoulder blade. And scan from your right shoulder blade down your right arm, from your upper arm to your elbow, through your lower arm to your wrist. And then notice the way your hand rests, the direction your palm faces. And then do the same thing from your left shoulder blade through your upper left arm to your elbow, through your lower left arm to your wrist, through your hand, your palm, your fingers, and your thumb. And again, notice the direction that your palm faces. Notice the distance from your pelvis that your right hand is and your left hand is. Just notice what it is right now. Now, the lesson we're doing today is about learning how to move our pelvis and move ourselves in relationship to the movement of the pelvis and the movement of our spine. So it'll also give you access to the most powerful part of your body, which is the pelvis, and it'll increase the flexibility of your spine. And generally that means you can be more pain-free. It reduces pain and discomfort. Not only in the lesson that we're doing, but in all your daily movement lessons. So please remember to do each movement gently, slowly. Don't push or force to make anything happen. Don't rush. This work is a little different than most exercise classes or a yoga class, which all are wonderful. And actually, this work will actually enhance anything else you do. And just checking, be sure that if you need it, you put a little support beneath your head. And as the lesson continues, things reorganize and it may change. And put your attention on your breathing for a few moments. Without trying to change it or correct it, just notice what is. Just become aware of how much of you is participating in the breathing. Where do you feel movement? Is it just in your upper chest, your lower chest? Take note of the direction that you feel expansion in your chest, in your rib cage. Is it from front to back? Is it side to side? Is it from top to bottom? Is it more one way than the other, or do you feel kind of an even expansion in all directions? Now please bend your knees, stand your feet, and make sure your feet and knees are spread apart, roughly about hip width. In fact, if you want to, you'll want to look for a position that your legs are stable in so that you don't have to engage a lot of muscular effort to keep them there, and that's generally around hip width. But a good way to explore is to, start where you are, move your feet in just a little bit, see how that feels, and then move them apart a little bit and see how that feels. So we explore right to left directions, and then find the place in that line where they feel most comfortable, more stable. And then try sliding your feet further away from your bottom and see how that feels. And then slide them back closer to your bottom. See how that feels. And then just find that place where they feel most stable, where you don't have to engage a lot of muscular effort to make them stand there. And And now slowly and gently start arching your lumbar spine, your low back area. So you do it, a movement so that your low back starts lifting away from the floor. That will make your pelvis roll down so that the arch in your low back will increase. So you do that gently. And then just play with that. Repeat that, let it come back to neutral. And just repeat that gently and slowly, arching your back so that your pelvis is rolling down in the direction of your tailbone, or may even roll to your tailbone. And then just let it come back to place. Just come back to neutral. Now notice what do you do with your belly when you're rolling your pelvis down, arching your back? So when you roll your pelvis down, so you're resting sort of on your tailbone in that direction, notice what kind of an arch you have in your back, your low back area. And by the way, notice, are you breathing? Do you inhale or do you exhale? Or do you hold your breath because you're focusing on doing something? Play with one time arch it inhaling and one time arch it exhaling and see if it makes a difference. And just continue doing this gently, slowly. And see if you can feel some movement more in your spine, moving up your spine. What about your pelvis? What kind of movement do you feel in your pelvis? What parts of your spine do you feel movement in? Are there parts that you don't feel movement in? Do you feel any movement in your head when you roll your pelvis down in the direction of your tailbone? What do you do with your belly when you're doing this? Try pulling your belly in tight and arching your back while you hold your belly in tight. What happens?
Can't do it. Ain't going nowhere.
All right. Now, intentionally do the opposite. Intentionally let your belly push out. Use your abdominal muscles to push out to help arch your back. If we get to the place where there's no interference in our back and spine, when we rock the pelvis like this, it will pull on our spine so that we feel a pull in our head and also a pull down our spine. But if that's not happening yet, don't try to make it happen. Just be aware that that can happen as we continue on through the process. Notice if your chin begins to pull down towards your chest as you roll your pelvis down and arch your back. And then just leave that go, lengthen your legs and rest. And remember, the rests aren't because you were working so hard and you need a break. The rests are about taking time to notice anything that's different in your breathing, in your contact with the floor, anything you feel that's anything that you're feeling that's different than when you first laid down. When there's interference, it's most likely because we have habitual and unnecessary muscular contractions and tensions in our back that don't allow our spine to move. And until we begin to eliminate those, there's interference so that our head doesn't know that our pelvis is rocking. But as communication improves, as in most situations in life, with improved communication, we have improved harmony and participation. And the way to increase the changing is to really reduce the force with which we do any of the movements. And that will help us soften the chest. Our chest and our rib cage, the sternum, all that area tends to get pretty rigid through life. We hold a lot of emotions there, a lot of grief, a lot of fear, a lot of disappointment. And as these ribs begin to free up in our chest and sternum and upper ribs begin to free up, it's amazing how much of the rest of our self is able to move. And then bend your knees again, stand your feet. And again, go back to gently rocking your pelvis and arching your back. And then rounding your back, rolling your pelvis down. Now this time, contract your abdominal muscles and rock your pelvis up in the direction of your head so that the top of your pelvis or lower back area presses more gently into the floor. Your tailbone begins to lift a little bit from the floor and then let it go and return to the starting position. So you just are going back to neutral. You're not rolling your pelvis down and arching your back. You're just going back to neutral. Remember to breathe and pause in between each movement. So you roll your pelvis up, your tailbone lifts, your low back sinks into the floor, and you can imagine the force now moving up your spine in the direction of your head. And then each time you come back to neutral, pause, take a breath, let everything relax, and then do the movement again. And when we do that, when we pause, let everything relax, it allows our brain to do a little reset. So we start from a fresh place each time we do the movement. So it's not about doing repetitions. Notice, does the movement become easier? Does it get a little larger? And there's no need for it to get larger. In fact, right now, stop, keep your knees bent, and just for a few moments, imagine rolling your pelvis up. Not actually doing it, just imagine the move. And pay attention to where you feel the impact of imagining the move. Kind of let your attention spread to the rest of your torso. Maybe even pressure under your feet may change. anytime we're doing a lesson or a movement, stopping to imagine the move opens up parts in our brain that are different than when we just only do the physical movement. So after you've done the imagining for a little while, then go back to actually doing the movement, of rolling your pelvis up. Being aware, you begin to feel the connection with your head. And then leave it alone. Slowly lengthen your legs and rest. As our chest gets soft enough, soft enough, easy for you to say, when the chest is soft enough, the force that's created by the movement of our pelvis pushes through our spine and travels up through the spine all the way to our head. So we begin to connect our head and our pelvis. So when we're rolling our pelvis up in the direction of our head and the force travels up, notice what kind of movement you experience in your head. And don't worry if you don't feel much movement in your spine or in your chin at this point in time. We're not done with the lesson yet. Just continue gently, not trying to force anything, and the changes will come. Then again, bend your knees, stand your feet, again about hip width of your pelvis. And now this time, start rolling your pelvis down and start arching your lower back so that you're leaning more in the direction of your tailbone. And then reverse the direction and roll your pelvis up to press gently on the top of your pelvis or your low back area. So you're combining the two previous movements. You arch your low back, roll your pelvis down to lean on your tailbone, and then you pull the belly in and roll the pelvis to the top of your pelvis, down your back, so you roll your pelvis down, you feel the arch in your spine, pressure probably increasing up in the direction of your shoulders, down towards your tailbone. And then as you bring your belly gently in, do this in slow motion. You feel your low back press to the floor, more of your self is coming in contact with the floor. What kind of communication is happening with your head now? Are you beginning to feel the connection with your head? As you're continuing to explore this movement, feeling your movement getting better, this is a good way to begin to get rid of back pains if we address it gently. But when we roll our pelvis up, we contract our abdominal muscles in order for our pelvis to roll up. When the abdominal muscles contract, that allows your back muscles to let go. And vice versa, when we contract our back muscles, it allows our abdominal muscles to let go. So in order for your back muscles to work properly, your abdominal muscles need to let go. And for many of us, this was kind kind of a foreign concept because we put so much emphasis on having a flat belly, sucking it in, tucking it under. And the emphasis was on having strong abdominal muscles. But our concept of that was a little skewed. We need powerful abdominal muscles, but to be powerful, those muscles need to be able to contract and they need to be able to expand. So, if you suck your belly in and go to lift something heavy, when you suck your belly in and hold it tight, your back muscles turn off. So they are very vulnerable to injury. So we probably created a lot of back injuries with our misthinking there. So our intention here is to learn how to move our pelvis, move our back, our chest, our pelvis in all directions. And then leave it alone, lengthen your legs and rest. And as we learn to do this, this helps us get rid of a lot of aches and pains. Our back muscles need to be able to work, and our abdominal muscles should not interfere. And if they do, then we're working against ourselves. So, bend your knees, and we're going to explore this a little bit. Okay, now, pull your belly in and at the same time try to arch your back. If you're really pulling your belly in, you should not be able to arch your back, not much at least. Now free your belly, push your belly out and arch your back. Do it gently, not forcefully. And then just repeat this gentle rounding, pulling the belly in, pulling it in gently. Do this gently so that your brain has a chance to sense and feel what you're doing. And then slowly pushing your belly out, arching your back, rolling your pelvis down. And pay attention to how far up your spine do you feel the repercussions of this movement. Can you feel your chin moving? The other thing we have to look to reduce tension in is in our rib cage. The rib cage needs to soften. In order for there to be movement through our spine. I want to give you something a little flatter. Try that. How's that? Is that enough, or do you need a little more?
Enough.
Okay. Feels good? You can move better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And then leave it alone, lengthen your legs and rest. And of course, it's not resting because you're working so hard, it's resting to take time to notice what you feel. Time to give your brain a little brain candy. And then bend your knees again, stand your feet in that place where they stand comfortably, and go back to doing the movement that you were just doing, gently bringing your belly in, rounding your back, and then gently pushing your belly out. Notice things like your tailbone going down as you push your belly out and your back arching. And pay attention to what happens in your rib cage as you roll your pelvis, flatten your low back. You begin to feel movement in your rib cage. Put your fingertips on your sternum, on your breastbone. And just notice, is there any movement there? I mean, besides the moving up and down, just gently see if you can enhance the moving up towards your chin as your back arches. It would be a real subtle movement. And then think of your sternum sliding down a little as you round your back and let your ribs, your chest sink. And then again, as you arch your back, gently and let yourself imagine your sternum sliding up a little bit. The sternum our ribs are connected to our sternum with cartilage. That's soft, it's movable, just like our nose. So this is one thing that you start out imagining. And as we continue in the work, you'll be amazed at how flexible we can become in our chest, in our rib cage. Just as you continue to roll your pelvis up and down, notice if your spine and head are moving. Can you feel, imagine your spine actually sliding up and down a little bit. And scan in the background. Is there any place that you're holding tension you could let go of? Like, are you holding any tension in your neck? What about your jaw? Can you let your jaw soften? Imagine the back of your neck softening. What about your eyes softening? And now we're going to add one more piece. As you're slowly rounding your back, rolling your pelvis up so that your whole spine is arching, let your eyes look down. And then as you begin to reverse it, let your eyes look up. You can keep your eyes closed doing this. So you're letting your eyes look down as you round your back, your belly comes in, the tailbone lifts a little bit. And then you're pushing your belly out, letting your eyes look up. Maybe you can imagine your sternum moving up. Just let this be very gentle. Movement with the eyes is really powerful. So it's a gentle moving of the eyes. Now, pause just a moment. And now this time, as you round your back, let your eyes look up. We're doing the opposite. Let your eyes look up. And then as you arch your back, let your eyes look down. Let's see what that does.
That doesn't feel right.
And then go back to letting your eyes move with the movement. As your spine rounds, let your eyes look down. As your back begins to arch, let your eyes look up. You may even want to play with leading the movement with your eyes. And then leave it alone, lengthen your legs and rest. Notice Is there a difference in how your legs rest? Or your pelvis is in contact with the floor? Is there more of your back in contact with the floor now? There are a lot of lifelong habits that are held in these muscles of ours. And as they begin melting away, we find ourselves more comfortable, more functional. So again, bend your knees, put your feet standing, spread, interlace your fingers, and put your hands behind your head, not behind your neck, behind your head. So your hands should be like at the point where your head leans on the floor. Now just begin to lift your head off the floor with the help of your hands and put it back down. Okay, and this is not the exercise way of doing this. This is the Feldenkrais functional way. So what you want to do is bring your elbows in so that you're kind of cradling your head. Bring your elbows up so that you're up beside your ears. Work comfortably there. And then begin lifting your head. Now notice you lift and put it back down.
That goes all the way down to my tailbone.
Isn't that interesting? Now notice, do you inhale or exhale as you're lifting?
Yes.
Try it each way. One time try exhaling while you lift, and another time inhale as you lift. See, we try these variations because our brain likes variation. It gives it options to choose from. And of course, our brain is much smarter than our intellect, so our brain will now added to exhaling while you lift your head. This time, exhale and think of your sternum, your breastbone sliding down towards your pubic bone just a little bit. Not that far, just a little bit. So your eyes are looking down towards your chest. So when you look down with your eyes, does your chin come closer to your chest? Don't pull hard on your head. Just do the movement slowly and gently, and just intentionally soften your chest. Imagine it just, your ribs softening, your sternum. Imagine it moving easily. Don't try to do a big movement, just a comfortable one. You'll increase your movement much faster that way and avoid any pain or discomfort. And now, rest for just a moment. You can bring your arms down for a moment if you want. And then this time, interlace your fingers in the non-habitual way. So the way you do that is just to cross your fingers the way you usually do, and then slide everything over one digit. And again, put your hands behind your head. And now this time, remember you're going to do a comfortable lift. Bring your elbows in. Lift your head with your arms and keep it there, wherever you go most comfortably. And then start rolling your pelvis up, holding your head there. So you're pulling your belly in and rolling your pelvis up, and then pushing your belly out, arching your back, and rolling your pelvis down. So you're freeing your abdomen, pushing your belly out. It's the same movement you were doing before, only this time your head and arms are lifted off the floor. And let your elbows be close together. And just repeat that. And notice what you do with your breathing. Can you feel that when you go to, excuse me, go to lean towards your tailbone and your head goes down a little? Do you feel the difference in the movement in your pelvis? And you feel that as your pelvis rolls, so your tailbone goes down towards the floor, that your head also tends to go down towards the floor. And then leave that alone. Slowly lower your head, bring your arms down, lengthen your legs and rest. And scan to see if you feel any differences. Any changing in your breathing. And now bend your right knee only and stand your right foot. And now start pushing on your foot so that the right side of your pelvis lifts and your pelvis rolls to lean on the left side of your pelvis. So you're only lifting your right side so that you lean more on the left side of your hip, left side of your pelvis. And just repeat that a few times. In order to do this, you have to let go of your belly. So in order to do this, you need to arch the right side of your back. The muscles on your right low back need to contract and arch and work so that you have both power and freedom to do the movement. This is an essential movement for the back to move well. It's a central player in the game. And it's important that we're able to do this, not only because when you're rolling on the floor, but also in order to sit well, to stand well, to walk well, and to be free of pain in our back. It's important to be able to arch the back like that, push the belly out, and notice you can't arch your back and pull your belly in very well simultaneously. So the belly has to be free. And pretty much everyone needs to learn how to use our back this way. You need to slow down, reduce the effort, so that you can really become aware of what you're actually doing. Make sure you're not trying to pull your belly in when you're trying to move the right side of your pelvis. That you're pushing it out, using your back muscles instead. Learning to engage those back muscles. A healthy back is a back that's built for movement. Okay, to feel the contrast, remember our brain likes contrast, pull your belly in powerfully and try to do the movement. So just a time or two will give the brain enough of a contrast so you can go back to rigor mortis. You can go back to pushing the belly out, arching the back.
Soon enough.
And now, as you continue doing this, as you push on the foot To roll the pelvis, see if you can also direct the force up your spine. You're arching your back. Think of the force as you're arching your back, the force going from your foot up to your hip, your pelvis, and up your spine. And you have to really free your belly in order to do that. And now leave that alone. Slowly come back, slowly lengthen your leg and rest for a moment. Now, do you feel a contrast between your right side and your left side? And now place your left foot standing. And for a moment, imagine pressing on your foot, pushing your belly out, arching your back, and rolling your pelvis to the right. So often this pulling the belly in can be a deeply ingrained habit, so be sure that you're pushing your belly out. And after you've imagined it a time or two, then go ahead and actually do the movement. Gently push on your left foot and direct the force to roll. Got to push that belly out. Push, push, push the belly out. Feel how that allows your back to arch? And then begin to see. And now when we're doing these movements, we do a movement, and then if we want to increase the force, we come back to neutral, and then do a movement increasing the force. That allows our brain to get a little more contrast. So rather than push and then push more, go to where you push and then come back, rather than push and push beyond that. That just gives our brain a little different information. And now, as you continue pressing on your foot, pushing your belly out, arching your back, begin to direct that force up your spine. See if you can begin to direct the force up your spine to begin to push your head, elongate your neck. Be sure you're arching the left side of your back, pushing your belly out, and using your muscles to do this movement. I want to alleviate any concern that you might have that your belly will get too big. Not to worry, you can always pull it in. Today you're simply learning not to have it as a compulsion. You're getting some additional freedom to free your belly and use your back whenever you want to. After all, you do have to push your belly out to really arch your back. So. And then let it go. Slowly bring your pelvis down, lengthen your leg, and rest. And just be aware of any additional changes in your contact with the floor. Okay, then bend your knees again. This time, start pulling your belly in and rolling your pelvis up, and at the same time, help your pelvis roll up by pressing on with your right foot on the floor. So it's going to feel a little lopsided. And then come back to the original position. Notice, does your pelvis roll in the middle, or is it a bit to the left? Does your head move when you press on your right foot now and roll your pelvis up?
I feel like I'm leaning left on tilt.
You're listing. Okay, see if you can reduce the effort and allow the force to travel from your foot through your skeleton up to your head. So it's going up more to your right side. And force is going from your foot to your head. So your pelvis is rolling up a little. The force is going up the right side. And then go ahead and lengthen your legs. Compare the two legs, see if you feel any difference between the right and the left. And now this time, leave your left leg long, bend your right leg, and do the same thing. Gently press on your right foot. And then leave that alone. Lengthen your right leg. Notice anything you feel that's different there. And then bend your left leg. And now begin to imagine pressing on your left foot, the force going through your skeleton, through your leg, through your pelvis, up your spine, all the way to your head. Imagine the way the pelvis would roll a little here. Notice, what do you do with your belly when you're pressing on your left foot? Can you soften your chest a little more? Be sure you keep breathing. The more we allow our breathing to be uninterrupted, the more the force will travel from our foot to our leg, through our pelvis, our spine, to our head. And then leave that alone, lengthen your leg, and rest. And one last time, bend your knees, stand your feet. Take a moment to imagine, bring your whole skeleton into your image, sense of your feeling, sense of yourself, and imagine pressing on your feet, the force going through your skeleton, through your legs to your hip joints, through your pelvis, through your sacrum, up your spine, all the way to your head. And then begin to just gently press on your feet, imagining the force going through your skeleton. So press and release so that you're kind of jiggling yourself. It's a kind of a quick little push. Pressing on your feet, imagining this force going through your skeleton, to your knees, to your hip joints, through your pelvis, up your spine. Just a gentle, easy connection. And then just leave it alone. Slowly lengthen your legs and rest. And take just a few moments to feel what you feel. Sometimes there's a sense of quiet. Are there parts of you touching the floor now that weren't? Or there may be some parts not touching, or not touching that were. Is there a difference in the way that your legs rest, the direction your toes are pointing? Is there more of you touching the floor? While you're resting there now, noticing, begin to imagine the way you're going to roll to your side and find your way to standing. And try to imagine your skeleton. Your bones moving. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and roll to one side or the other and slowly find your way to stand. And you'll want to come off your mat and stand on the floor. And just once you're upright, just stand on the floor. Just let your arms hang. You want to come off your mat and stand on the floor. So you have a solid surface beneath your feet. We're still in the sensing and feeling, so keep your attention in. We do the movements laying down where we're not dealing with gravity. And then we slowly bring the changes into the upright position, and we just take time to be there. Just let your arms hang, let your attention be on noticing whatever gets your attention. Take a few moments, notice your breathing. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. If you'd ever like to join us in person, I'd be more than happy to have you join us. We're here at 9:30 Tuesday mornings at the Addison Township Center. My name is Shirley Delorier, and I encourage you to keep on moving well.